Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of TTG Face to Face, where we speak to industry figures about how their companies are coping and dealing with the coronavirus crisis. This morning, I'm really happy. It's a real pleasure to have and to basically say a real warm welcome back to the travel industry, to a face that many of you, I imagine, will know. I'm delighted to say that we're joined by Cruise 118 co-founder and former chief at that place, James Cole, who's just about this week to launch his very own and his first luxury cruise agency, Panache Cruises. James, welcome back to the travel industry. How does it feel to be back, and how are you doing?
Hi, Tom. Thanks very much for having me, first of all. Yeah, I feel good. Obviously, it's unprecedented times that we're in. You know, there's a lot of negativity at the moment, and there's a lot of people, well, virtually everyone has been infected by coronavirus. So it's, very sad and testing times for people. But personally, I'm very well. My family's well, which is the number one thing at the moment. And yeah, delighted to be launching Panache Cruises officially today.
I was going to say it's here. It's coming out today. It's Monday morning. This is the news the cruise you need to know. In terms of James, why now? Why launch your business during a global pandemic? I'm sure everyone's probably asked you that question as soon as the news came out a few weeks ago that you were returning to the industry. What is it about now that sort of gets you want to get started?
Yeah, I think if I'd have got a pound for every time I've been asked that question, Tom, I think the business would be fully funded.
No need to sell any cruises, would there?
I think the reason being is that Panache Cruises is a long-term venture. So, we envisage that we're going to be around, in 10, 15, 20 years' time. So the time that we start, I wouldn't say it's irrelevant. There's obviously some consideration gone into when we launch. But the pandemic's here. It's a situation that everybody finds them, and we actually think, from our point of view, it's a positive time to start. Where the cruising is about to return. When I say about, I mean in the coming months. I'm sure we'll see some of the major cruise lines starting cruising in 2020, and then building up back to somewhere near full capacity into 2021. So, now's a good time to start a retail business. People aren't necessarily looking to cruise in the next couple of months, but certainly into 2021 and obviously 2022, which has perhaps been launched a little bit earlier as well.
And how does it feel sort of personally, James, to be back in the travel industry? I know it's an industry that you were a part of for a long time and had made a real name and real success in. What's it like to be back? Is it nice to sort of reconnect and catch up with people that you haven't sort of connected with for a while?
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, the feedback I've had personally of people about me coming back is quite humbling, and I really appreciate the comments that people have been made. I also sound really old, Tom, because people have started describing me as a veteran.
Oh, you've made it.
23 years in travel, or 23 years actually in the cruise industry. So I'm still only 45, but I sound a lot older than that, I think, sometimes.
I think you're a high achiever, achieved a lot in a short space of time. Would you prefer stalwart? I always find, is veteran better than stalwart? Stalwart makes you sound even older. I don't know.
I think it does. Yeah, let's just stick with 23 years of experience. But yeah, no, I'm delighted to be back. I left the cruise industry in March 2018, and I'll be honest with you, Tom, I didn't necessarily see myself coming back. I went into a different industry, into building properties and construction, and that the businesses that are set up there have done pretty well, to be honest. But I don't know, there was something about travel, something about cruise that just started to pull me back in as I got towards the end of my non-compete agreement, which ended at the end of 2019. So, I think the one thing I did find when I was out of the cruise industry, which I've been in since 1998, is that I'm so passionate about cruising. I've worked in the industry, but I've been on 3 cruises since I left WTH back in March and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I've been a bit disappointed about how the cruise industry, well, hugely disappointed about how the cruise industry's been treated by the media and how it seems to have been singled out. When you actually look at the stats, cruise has actually done pretty well. There's been some isolated incidents through coronavirus, but I found that a little bit hard to take, and I wanted to come back in and make a real difference. So that's some of my thoughts, to be honest.
Yeah, and it sounds like you really have the cruise industry to heart, despite not necessarily being a part of it for a couple of years. Yeah, and when you mentioned that non-compete there, when you were sort of outside of the industry, did you always keep an eye on what was going on and sort of think, oh, I might do that, or well, perhaps if someone did that, were you always sort of your mind sort of ticking away of how you might do things if you were in the industry?
Yeah, initially, I'll be honest with you, Tom, I was glad to get out of, out of the situation I was in, and I was glad to spend some time out. We went on a cruise in August 2018, a lovely celebrity cruise to Scandinavia and Russia. Absolutely fantastic. We thoroughly enjoyed it. We went on an Azamara cruise, and we're fortunate enough which went to the Monaco Grand Prix. So, I was never really that far away, and then just started getting, news feeds, re-signing up for, TTG, whatever else, and just started to get the news. And I think that's where the hunger started to come back, and there was this magnetic force that started to pull me in, to be honest.
Yeah, like I say, a lot of people talk of that hook, don't they? That the travel industry, once you're in, you can't seem to get out in a good way. But no, that's interesting actually. So you weren't undeterred at all when you, because sorry, just to say the question again, when you first started to think about Panache and you're doing your own thing, had you been thinking about it for a number of months before the start of this year, when the world seemed to sort of become mad in this totally different landscape, and you weren't undeterred when that situation arose in the industry and the sort of the pause in shutdown of sailing?
No, I think when the negative press came out, I had thoughts about things previous to the coronavirus outbreak, and there were things starting to happen. Let's say there were thoughts going through my mind, but I think it almost just pulled me in even further, the negativity surrounding cruise, and just being in the cruise industry for so long and understanding the innovation and the motivation and the good people that run cruise lines and run cruise retail businesses that I know pretty well. That seeing those people being treated so negatively by the press, just gave me that hunger even more, I guess. And that's where I decided that I was going to pull things forward and actually launch Panache. Clearly not in the middle of the pandemic, but right in it, so to speak.
Yeah. And so now, obviously, yeah, that's a good place to sort of jump off at. Panache, it's here. The agency has launched. James, what can you tell us about it, and what should people watching need to know about your brand goals, your brand ethos, and how you're going to run things?
Yeah, well, Panache Cruises comes from my 23 years in the cruise industry, Tom. So I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot of positive things. I've learned a lot of negative things, and I think that the culmination of my 23 years experience of what's happened in the industry and what's happened to me in the industry is where Panache comes from. So we're going to specialize in 4 micro niches. So we're going to specialize in elite ocean, river, expedition, and what we're calling yacht style cruising. It's all going to be centered around the customer and our colleagues, our employees. So if I take the customer service to start off with, very much front to back end personalised customer service. So from the moment you call Panache Cruises, you'll be introduced to your own cruise connoisseur, who'll be with you from that moment to when you return from your cruise holiday. And they will deal with absolutely everything to do with your cruise. They'll get to know you. They will book everything and take care of all your needs. So basically, nothing is too much trouble for us. So literally, from a cruise holiday point of view, the moment you step out of your front door to the moment you return, we'll look after absolutely everything. We'll spend time with customers as much as they need, and we'll just, like I say, look after everything from start to finish. In terms of customer service is just something I'm really passionate about, Tom. Always have been. Try to look at things from a customer point of view, not just our business's point of view. So, a small example, I'm really irritated by IVR phone systems. How many companies these days do you ring and you press 1 for this, 2 for that, 3 for the other, and then you end up getting lost in the phone system and they hang up on you. So we won't have an IVR system. A customer will ring us. Hope there'll be some intelligent routing in the background that says, oh, it's Tom. He last spoke to James when he called through, so we'll try and route you through to me. But all you'll be aware of is that you ring a number, the phone rings, and somebody, hopefully me, answers. So, we'll use technology, but we'll use it to aid customer service rather than replace it. So it'll all be about us speaking to customers and giving them that really high-end customer service.
Oh, sounds great. It sounds like you're sort of thinking of things in many different ways. And whereabouts are you going to be based, James? And how big's the team so far, and across which sort of departments?
Yeah, good question. So clearly at the moment, it's not really hugely beneficial to have an office.
Yeah,
so,
very true.
we know which office we will be moving into. It's a nice modern office on the outskirts of Bolton in Lancashire, or Greater Manchester, I should say. I think these days, yeah. Previously Lancashire. We'll move into there when it's appropriate to do, when it's it's safe to do, when we don't need to have social distancing, and hopefully that's going to be Q1, Q2 next year. In the meantime, we'll work from home. We'll have gatherings together on a weekly basis, for management meetings. Whilst I think Zoom calling's great, as we're doing today. I don't think anything can replace face-to-face meetings and working as a team in an office. But clearly, there's moving forward, there's going to be a balance of both Zoom and working from home and people working in an office, and it's just getting that balance right from our point of view.
Yeah, and how many staff have you got on board at the moment? And is there sort of, I suppose it's difficult to talk about expansion right now, isn't there? But I suppose that is that the end goal in a few years, or yeah?
Yeah, so there's a balance between employees and people that we're contracting with. That we can flex how often and how much they're working for us. So I'd say in total there's probably about 15 of us starting out, and that covers marketing, web build, operations, product, cruise line and supplier liaison, and of course our connoisseur team. So to start off with, we'll have half a dozen connoisseurs on the phone, and we'll look to expand that over the next few months.
Oh, fab! And are you looking forward yourself to getting in and speaking to customers and being part of that connoisseur team?
Yeah, I don't know what my selling cruise skills are like, Tom, to be honest. But, yeah, I mean, it's been great over the last few weeks because, as you and I did an interview back in May when we did a soft launch and launched on Facebook. Well, from then, we've been able to build up a fairly considerable database of previous cruisers in the luxury sector, which is great. And I've been speaking to I'd say probably hundreds of customers over the course of the last couple of months, on email largely, and the response to what we're doing has been fantastic. So we're been getting to know where customers are at and the key questions that they need answering, and that's what we'll aim to do as Panache Cruises.
Oh, brilliant! And you've also recruited some celebrity help as well, and you've got like an ambassador program who sort of people that love cruises, who are well-known faces. Can you talk a bit more about that, James, and who you've signed up to help out?
Yeah, you've got a bit of a sneak preview there, haven't you, Tom? So yeah, we're really keen that we obviously sell cruises. That's our primary objective as a business, but also we're looking to recruit some ambassadors that not only will represent Panache Cruises, but will also aid the promotion of the overall the overall cruise industry as well. So to do that, we're looking to attract some celebrity endorsements, and our first ambassador, who is mad keen on cruising, loves his cruising, wants to be involved, like I say, not only with us, but to promote cruising overall as well. Is a guy called Duncan James, who is in the band Blue, and also does a lot of theatre and TV work as well. And Duncan, he's just absolutely unbelievable, a great character, like I say, absolutely passionate about cruising, and just wants to share his experiences that he'll have with us on board ships, going to launches, sailing on ships with his partner or his mum, and just getting across what it's actually like on cruises, when we start sailing again.
Oh, that's fantastic. And have you got any other names lined up, or any other people on your hit list, James, that you think, oh, perhaps they like cruising, or Philip Schofield perhaps, or a few other celebrity types like that?
I think We Buy Any Car might have something to Philip Schofield coming to work with us. But yeah, sure, we're on the lookout for some more ambassadors, and Duncan's the first one of a number that we will sign over the coming months.
Fantastic. And then I suppose, sort of speaking more widely on current cruise industry issues, when do you sort of how are sort of forward bookings looking now? And from speaking to customers, how's that confidence looking in terms of, is it sort of end of this year? Is it start or middle of next? What are you sort of getting an indication on when people will be happy to cruise and book again?
Yeah, I think personally, from the anecdotal feedback I've had from the customers I've been speaking to, I think there's customers fit into three buckets, if you will, if that's not a derogatory term. Three camps, three categories. Let's say that. So the first camp is I'm keen to get back on a cruise as soon as I can. An avid cruiser, and I love cruising, and I've missed it. When can I go on a cruise? I'm personally in that camp, and I can't wait to get on a cruise. So they're the ardent cruise fans. Then there's the second camp, which are people who do cruise and are keen on cruising, but probably just want to wait and see what happens, and are waiting to see the announcements and when cruising return, and are probably going to be a little bit more cautious about making that first booking, but will do over the course of the next few months, and hopefully certainly by the end of 2020. And then there's the third camp of largely new to cruise customers who, let's be honest, are going to be more difficult to convert to trying a cruise out, given all the unfortunate negative press that's been around over the last few months. And I think people like Duncan James are going to help convert those people, and I guess that's one of the reasons why we want to get some passionate celebrities, and these celebrities have to be absolutely passionate about cruising, because I think you can see through people, and we want people who are absolutely passionate about cruising, to show people who don't cruise that cruising is the most innovative product in travel, to show that cruises, when they come back, will be the safest form of travel that you can do, and that cruise lines look after their guests and look after their crew. And that's the message we want to get through to that third camp of people.
Yeah, because the cruise industry seems to innovate like sort of perhaps no other, or it innovates in a different way to other travel businesses, doesn't it? In the ways, especially around safety and hygiene and security. And in terms of, obviously with luxury lines, I think anecdotally perhaps some cruise industry leaders have said that they think perhaps luxury might be more suited to this sort of this post-COVID cruising with less passengers and more space? And do you think that you guys are well suited for that because of it's almost naturally lends itself to social distancing and to stuff like that in the luxury sector?
Yeah, I think clearly, to start off with, the space ratio is going to be important on board. With social distancing, more restaurants to select from. All those things are going to be important. But hopefully, over the coming perhaps 12 months, we're going to see a return to more normal states of cruising. But in the interim, absolutely, I think the smaller ships with more or higher space ratios are going to help. Attract people. So yeah, that's definitely one of the benefits of being in luxury cruising. Yeah.
In terms of sort of setting a strategy for Panash's launch, how difficult is it right now to get any sort of, because how do you sort of quantify good? Like what is good sales these days? Do you know what I mean? Like how have you sort of set out this target for 6 months and a year's time and how that'll look?
Yeah, I think, like you say, that's really difficult. But I think it's really difficult when you set up a new business anyway. Having done it a number of times before, to set expectations. How do you know how your marketing is going to work? How do you know how many people are going to come on your website? How do you know how many calls you're going to get? How do you know how you're going to convert those calls? Those are all pretty much unknown. We don't have a last year, we don't have a last month or a last week. So, we've got to be quite realistic with our expectations, which I think we have done. And certainly from a financial point of view, we're safe and secure for the next 18 to 24 months, even if we didn't do any bookings whatsoever. We've been quite prudent in our financial planning because, like I said at the start of the interview, Tom, we're here for the next 10, 15, 20 years plus. That's our strategy, that's our horizon. And we absolutely want Panache Cruises to be a long-term significant player in the market. So we'll do what we need to get over these initial few months. Whether it's 6 months or 12 months, we'll do what we need to get through to that and position ourselves as being one of the very best retailers of cruising in the UK.
I think that's a great point to talk about there. Obviously, you being a real travel industry entrepreneur, James, and you've built businesses and been very successful. How does the market feel to you at the moment? Does it feel like everyone is at the same level? Perhaps the large cruise retailers and really successful lines. It sort of brings everyone back down to the level playing field, and it's who reacts best and who adapts best to the new environment who'll be most successful. Do you think?
Well, clearly everybody has their own strategy, and I'm not really privy on. I've not really looked into many other people's performance, to be perfectly honest, Tom. At the end of the day, we know where we want to get Panache to. It's not about next week for us. It's not about the next 6 months. It's about the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and that's the strategy that we're setting at Panache Cruises. And we've got some very definite plans in terms of what we want to do, and we're very comfortable with what we've implemented in what is a very short space of time. We'll launch our website today, and people will be on the phones today, but we'll improve things as we move forward, and we have a very definite plan in what we want to achieve.
And how difficult do you think it will be to get? I know we spoke about it earlier in terms of new to cruise and to really invigorate that cruise market. As you said, sort of it's had a very unfair rap, since the start of the year, and with certain lines and certain ships and with coronavirus. Do you think it is sort of one of probably the biggest challenge to ever face the industry? And how do you think it really sort of gets itself out of this pause and this slump that we're in at the moment?
Well, clearly, this is the biggest issue that cruising and travel in the world probably has ever faced, and the things that are going on at the moment across the world, especially in travel, are devastating. You know, one of the things that we're looking to do at Panache Cruises, and we have done, is we've taken people on and employed people who have been displaced by other businesses, and we'll continue to do that. So, you know, we'll do our small part to, you know, give people jobs where possible. But in terms of, you know, moving forward, you know, I think, you know, just we've got. I think that the thing that I take from my experience of the cruise lines is that cruising is exceptionally innovative. It's exceptionally creative, and it's exceptionally determined. And every single time there has been a barrier thrown in the way, smaller barriers that are there than are there now. But things like 9/11, things like the ash cloud, the sinking of Costa Concordia, the cruise industry has always bounced back. And it's not just bounced back, it has then kicked on. And I think that will absolutely happen this time round. It's clearly just going to take a lot longer. And, you know, it might take us a couple of years, if not longer, to get back to the levels we were at last year. But I think the industry's, you know, just so dynamic and so innovative that, you know, people will rally around and make sure that happens.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic to hear you say that, James. It's really, you can hear the sort of the passion in your voice for it as well, for the industry. And in terms of, does it feel perhaps as if the industry has turned a bit of a corner, or there's a lot of river lines who are sort of, some are cruising now, some are getting ready, some of them, the bigger ocean players, are sort of looking at the autumn to restart perhaps? Does it feel as if we are sort of getting there eventually this year?
Yeah, it's going to take a long time, isn't it? And, you know, I don't think at Panache Cruises we're fooled to think, you know, cruising's going to start and everything will be fine in the next month or in the next 2 months or even by the end of 2020. Things are going to take a long time to get back to some level of normality, but we have planned for that and we're expecting that. And, you know, if sales come in, then great. If sales don't come in, we have a plan for that, you know. So we're ready for that. But yeah, being slightly more positive, Tom, which, you know, is my usual mentality, is that, yeah, there is a sign that cruising is returning. There are cruise ships that have started sailing, you know. Ross has started to sail on the Rhine, and Seadream has started to sail off the coast of Norway. So there are little inklings that things are starting, but they are very, very, you know, people talk about green shoots. These are the smallest green shoots that you can only just see. But, you know, it's great to see that things are starting again, albeit very, very slow.
Let's hope those. The word is green shoots. Such a cliche, isn't it? But hey, it's good. It says what it does on the tin. That's green shoots, and yeah, let's hope those continue, and let's hope the green shoots of Panache grow up to be a nice big tree or something like that. Who knows? But James, I think that's a great place to end. But thank you again so much for joining me, and I can only wish you all the best in these interesting times with the venture. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tom. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.